Wow. We are live right after AEW Dynamite on TBS has just gone off the air. You know, usually I don't do these kind of post shows. Usually I don't because it's just, you know, obviously over here in the UK, time and all this kind of stuff. But I thought tonight, you know, I'm going to stay up, I'm going to watch the show, I'm going to enjoy it. Often I don't get to stay up to watch TV shows during the week as well because of everything that's going on. And with the whole Forbidden Door signing, with the whole free agent signing, I thought, you know what, I've got to tonight, and I've got to see what AEW has to offer. And I'm not going to do a full show review. I'm going to talk particularly about the two big debuts that you can see right there. But I mean, I don't want to hype things up too much, obviously, but for me, that show that we just saw, and it's not just because of the Jay White, and it's not just because of the Keith Lee debut, which were rumoured, so it wasn't total surprises, they were more like confirmations of what we already kind of knew was going to happen, but that show overall, in terms of Dynamite, it's like I'm not going to talk about just overall pro wrestling shows this year. To be honest, when it comes to a televised episode of pro wrestling, right up there already this year. I know it's early. I know it's February. I know it's only the second month of the year. But man, that was something else. That really was something else. And in terms of Dynamites, if you're just going to judge this in terms of, was this up there in terms of like one of the best episodes of AEW Dynamite ever? From top to bottom, it's at least top 5. I will put it there. It's at least top 5 episodes ever of AEW Dynamite, and that's high ranking considering in the 2 and a bit years that AEW's had Dynamite on the air on TNT and now TBS. There have been some really good episodes of AEW Dynamite, but man, tonight's show, it was something else. It was one hell of a show. And again, it wasn't just because of the Jay White and Keith Lee debuts. It was because of all of the above. And I was thinking, you know, again, my plan was to come on the air and just talk about the debuts. I thought there was going to be one. I was obviously there was the discussion about maybe there possibly being 2. But I was going to talk about primarily the debuts. And then just the show itself happened. And what a show. I think that even if you're not a fan of AEW, and there are people out there that don't like it, and I'm sure there'll be some that will come out of this show and criticize and say something to the extent of, oh, they've got too many people on the roster, they've got too many people, what are they going to do? This show was evident that, what a show. And I know it's not the best, review, but just what a show. Unbelievable. Gurdick says, man like Cody, appreciate you joining me. He says, who's your favourite wrestler of all time and who's your current favourite? I'm terrible, Gurdick, at doing favourites. I'm terrible. It goes like the wind blows. David says, AQA came from NXT. Yep, trained by Booker T as well. She did great, I thought, on the show. Although that match was sloppy at points. But we'll get into that, I suppose. So the big story coming out of the show, the big story, of course, is Jay White's making his AEW debut. There were rumors coming into the show that was a possibility. Fightful Select noted that, I believe it was Monday afternoon, Monday evening, there were rumors that Jay White could possibly be coming into AEW. Now, I don't really know the circumstances surrounding this in terms of contracts. As I mentioned before, I did a video, well, yesterday now, but earlier in the day, if you're in the United States, I did a video discussing how that could maybe be possible, and that there is precedent. There is precedent for this. Now, as far as I'm aware, and I think Sean Ross Sapp also confirmed this on social media, Jay White is still signed to New Japan. This isn't a situation where Jay White's contract with New Japan has expired and he signed with AEW. As far as I'm aware, Jay White's locked into New Japan Pro Wrestling for at least the next, I want to say 2 years, maybe even 3. He signed a really long-term contract with them a while ago. So it's not as if Jay White's disappearing or anything like that. That's not the case at all. The situation is that obviously New Japan Pro Wrestling has a working relationship with AEW. Lots of AEW wrestlers work New Japan Pro Wrestling shows. For instance, Rocky Romero was on the show tonight, right? The Roppongi Vice and all that kind of stuff. So there's precedent for all of this. So that's going on. We know that Leo Rush, whose contract expires with AEW later this month, but he's had 2 contracts at the same time, one with AEW, one with New Japan, so it's not impossible that Jay White could come in and have a contract with both. Now, I don't know if Jay White has indeed signed a contract with AEW. When Keith Lee made his debut, Tony Khan did the whole Keith Lee is all elite thing. As of right now, he hasn't done the same thing when it comes to Jay White, so that would imply that Jay White's just walking through the forbidden door. It's curious because heading into this show, Tony Khan was talking a lot about a lot of different definitions and lots of different meanings of words, shall we say. So he was talking about that there was going to be, we knew there was going to be this big free agent signing, and he was going to be facing Isaiah Cassidy. And the way that Tony Khan had phrased it last week was, it's going to be a forbidden door free agent signing. And everyone sort of went, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. How can you be walking through the forbidden door and also be a free agent? My interpretation, I think a lot of people's interpretation of this forbidden door term is that it's someone who's contracted to another company and then they come in and work or do a couple of shots for the other company. That's the definition of the forbidden door. So when Tony Khan was saying, well, it's going to be the forbidden door signing and the free agent signing, it's one and the same. They're the same person. They're going to be competing in this ladder match qualifier, and that wasn't the case. That was a bit of a red herring, because as a lot of people correctly predicted, that we actually got 2 debuts this evening, Jay White and Keith Lee, and they were separate. There was a free agent signing, which is Keith Lee, who defeated Isaiah Cassidy, and we'll get into that, but there also was a Forbidden Door appearance, and the Forbidden Door appearance is Jay White. So AEW continues their tradition of having 2 debuts in the same night. They don't just do 1, they do 2. It's the 3rd time they've done it, and I think both really worked. I think the Jay White one was much quicker. Obviously, it was just a cameo. There was no match. It was backstage, one and done kind of situation. And but he's going to be on Rampage on Friday. Adam Cole. This is what was interesting. So I'll just get into the debuts first, and I can get into other stuff I liked on the show. So the Jay White situation essentially was, there was a backstage interview with Roppongi Vice. They're talking. Out of nowhere, Adam Cole, Young Bucks attack them both. They attack them both, and it's continuing on the storyline that their cancelled match that was meant to be on Rampage, Roppongi Vice versus Young Bucks, that's going to happen. So they attack them, and then as they're attacking them and they're throwing them into the production truck, Adam Cole just looks up and goes, "Look who it is." And into the shot walks Jay White. He's there. He's got the Switchblade jacket on. You see first, and you go, "Oh my God, it's Switchblade. It's Jay White." Jay White turns around, attacks Roppongi Vice a bit more, and then he walks off. And I thought initially, because the next match was the ladder match qualifying thing, and I thought AEW's done an Eric Bischoff on Raw in 2002. I thought they've had Jay White make his debut, and now people are going to go on social media or call people, "Oh, you got to tune into TBS," and then he's going to work the ladder match, and it wasn't. That wasn't the situation. So it was kind of just left there. And then later on in the show, there's a promo of Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. And essentially, Adam Cole confirms, "Yeah, what did you think? Jay White, I brought Jay White in." And the Young Bucks say to Adam Cole, "Well, you do realize at one point, Jay White and Jay White and Kenny Omega, they hate each other. Like, they really hate each other. Like, Kenny Omega would not approve of this." And Adam Cole says, "No, don't worry about that. We're not approving it. Have I ever led you wrong? And whilst we might be called the Elite now, when you're Bullet Club, you're Bullet Club for life. And that's an oath we take seriously." And once I heard that, I went, wait a minute. We know what we're building to between Adam Cole and Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. We know we're eventually building to the Elite, which is Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks when Kenny Omega returns, versus Adam Cole and Red Dragon, the Undisputed Era. Now, they're not going to be called Undisputed Era. I recall that they've trademarked a name that they are going to use, but that's what it's building to. It's building to the Elites versus the Undisputed Era. And then when I saw this Jay White thing, I thought, you know what? What are we seeing in Impact Wrestling right now? We're seeing Jay White with the GOD, with the Guerrillas of Destiny. Now, Chris Bay's involved in that, but I think that's just the Impact Wrestling spin on it. They want to have an Impact guy. They want to get an Impact guy over. But I'm looking at this going, okay, we could possibly have something even bigger than just the Elite versus the Undisputed Era, which is big enough in itself. But we could have something even bigger than that. We could have the Undisputed Era, which of course is Adam Cole, Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, versus the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, versus the Bullet Club, which is Jay White and the GOD, the Guerrillas of Destiny. Now that's interesting. And how about you top that? How about you make that into a blood and guts match? How do you just make it a little bit more interesting? Bullet Club versus Undisputed Era versus Elite, blood and guts match. Now, I put that out on social media, I put that out on Twitter, and some people said, you can only have 2 teams in a blood and guts match. Who says? Who says you can? There have been War Games matches with three teams before. You know, I think about Team WCW, I think about Team NWO Hollywood and Team NWO Wolfpack. They did it with the first couple of NXT War Games they did. Anyway, as well, the Blood and Guts match is a rip-off of War Games. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want with those teams, right? So who's to say it's not building towards that? I think it is. I really do. And that's really exciting. So Jay White's going to be on Rampage on Friday. Again, he hasn't signed, as far as we're aware, with AEW or anything like that. This is just the working relationship, I think, for now, but it's exciting. It's really, really exciting. And in terms of matches he'll have in AEW, because I think obviously he's going to have matches. I don't know, singles matches, maybe against Adam Cole. I mean, look, it depends how extensive he's going to be on AEW programming. If he's just coming in for a little bit of a run and then he's going to be back just to primarily being on New Japan television, he's probably going to maybe face Adam Cole. Maybe he'll face Kenny Omega. They kind of teased that in Impact when he showed up at Slammiversary last year, and it never really paid off into anything. So maybe that will happen. Maybe we'll get Jay White versus Kenny Omega inside of an AEW ring. Maybe we'll get Jay White versus Adam Cole. But you also look at just the plethora of other people on the AEW roster. You think about CM Punk. You think about Bryan Danielson. You think about Jon Moxley. You think about Hangman Page. I mean, the list goes on and on. You think about Darby Allin. You think about Sammy Guevara. You think, honestly, the list is incredible of the amount of names that they have on their roster at their disposal. Every match is a dream match. So I don't know how extensive Jay White's involvement is going to be in AEW, but it's exciting. It's really exciting, and it's building. It's building to something. Now, I don't think that Bullet Club versus the Elite versus the Undisputed Era thing, I don't think that will pay off at Revolution, because that feels too close. I mean, what Revolution is what? It's like beginning of March, isn't it? End of February, beginning of March. That's what, 3 or 4 weeks away. So I don't know if they've got enough time necessarily to build to that one right now. But if they wanted to build to maybe Double or Nothing, you know, they did the Stadium Stampede again last year. Maybe they do it again, but maybe they have 3 teams involved. There are so many different directions that they could go in with that one, and I don't think that they've even scraped the surface. I think that it's another tease, and it's a great tease, it must be said, but I think it's another tease. Now, when it came to Keith Lee, again, I think this one was mostly expected. Keith Lee was the mystery opponent for Isaiah Cassidy in the Face of the Revolution qualifying match. So Keith Lee's actually going to be in a ladder match at Revolution, which is exciting, very exciting. But Keith Lee came out first, and I don't mean to turn this into a WWE bashing kind of thing, because people get angry, and they're like, you're such an AEW shill. Oh, you're an AEW shill, you're an AEW mark. No, I'm a pro wrestling fan, right? I like good pro wrestling. I don't like bad pro wrestling. Even though I thought this show was one of the top 5 Dynamites that they've done, I still don't think it was perfect. Again, I thought the parts of the Jade Cargill match were sloppy, especially that finish. You could openly hear the ref calling the finish, going crossbody catch, you know, do all that kind of stuff. Or push away, crossbody catch. It was very obvious. But I thought it was a great show. And again, I don't mean to turn this into a bash, bash WWE, bash WWE. But watch that Keith Lee debut appearance tonight on AEW Dynamite. That's how you book Keith Lee. And realistically, it's not hard. And then just watching the Keith Lee match tonight against Isaiah Cassidy, it makes his WWE main roster run even more frustrating, because you look at all of those changes they made to him and you just go, why? Like, why? Like, even to the point, so Keith Lee comes out. First of all, his music's great. Whoever did his AEW music is great, because that was the first thing in WWE. His new music, they changed it. I get it, CFO stuff, whatever. But his first music sucked, and that was straight out the gate. Like, oh, that sucks. This music's good. Tick. He comes down to the ring, takes off his his vest, he doesn't have to wear a shirt because Vince McMahon's so offended that Keith Lee doesn't look like Brock Lesnar, or Keith Lee doesn't look like, I don't know, Hulk Hogan, or he doesn't look like, he's not completely jacked up and defined. Vince McMahon hates that. You've got to wear something to cover that up. Oh, heaven forbid you wear, you don't look like the average person. That's the point. He's not the average person. He's limitless. That's the whole thing. And the fact that he looks like that, and when you're watching it, you'll go, oh, that's just a fat guy. What's he going to be doing? And then he does incredible things that you never thought he could do. That's the gimmick. That's being limitless, right? So he takes off the thing. He's not wearing a shirt. That's a tick then. So you go music tick. He's not wearing a shirt tick. Then what does he do? He works a match where the first thing he does in a match, he puts Isaiah Cassidy into the corner. He does one of the biggest beals you will ever see in your life. Isaiah Cassidy, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, nearly hit the ceiling. He threw him up so high up in the air, so he's showing off his strength anyway. But then for the rest of the match, he's not just showing off his strength, he's showing off his agility. He's doing cross bodies, he's doing slingshots over the top rope, he's doing all this kind of stuff. He's doing those spots that make you go, wow. And that's what he did in NXT. Keith Lee got so popular in NXT because, again, he had this look, he came out, doesn't look physically like he's super, I don't want to say imposing, because I think if you stand next to Keith Lee, he dwarfs most people. He's a big guy, and he's a strong guy, obviously. But you might look at him and go, well, that's not the defined, jacked up guy that I expect to see. So what's he going to do? And then you watch him for a couple of minutes and you go, I get it. I get it, because, I'd love to see a Brock Lesnar do that kind of stuff, right? I'd love to see these jacked up people do some of the things that Keith Lee's able to do, because a guy that's 320 pounds doing crossbodies and flying around the ring and doing moonsaults, that's not normal. And that's the point. Keith Lee is not normal. So it was one big showcase for him. It showcased his strength. It showcased his ability. Again, he's doing all kinds of insanity spots. And that's how you debut him. That's what got him over. All of those changes that were made to Keith Lee from NXT to the main roster tonight just got reversed. And it wasn't a difficult thing to do. And that's the baffling thing. I think that's the thing that frustrated people so much with Keith Lee on the main roster in WWE. They got so attached to this guy in NXT that they thought, this guy's money. He's absolute money. We haven't seen people like him that can do the things that he can do. It's amazing. When he gets to the main roster, just a bigger audience, man, he'll make so much money, he'll be so popular, he's a slam dunk. And he goes to the main roster and there's just change after change after change after change. And to the point of, the gimmick was limitless, right? He does limitless things, and he's told you've got to work like a big man. No more crazy spots, no more moonsaults, no more slingshots, no more anything like that, because that's not how big men work. He's not the average big man. That's the gimmick. And then they strip him of the identity, and then they go, you're bland. You don't seem like you know who you are. Well, that's because the identity I had, you took away from me. It's crazy. So in one night, he feels more relevant than he did in, arguably, for the majority of his main roster run. I'm not going to say the whole run, because he beat Randy on a payback just a couple of weeks after he made his debut for WWE. I'll give him that. But I think it's just, like I said, he just immediately felt more important, more relevant, and that's how you showcase his abilities. That's how you show what he can do. And I think, considering everything he's gone through in terms of his health issues alone, in terms of the last 12 months, I was so pleased for him. I really was. And it was, honestly, such a tremendous match. Just a tremendous match. I think credit has to go to Isaiah Cassidy as well, because as debut matches go, I think he made Keith Lee look great, because make no mistake, Keith Lee is incredible and Keith Lee can do incredible things, but also there's a lot of reliance on your opponent. Your opponent's got to make you look good. And Isaiah Cassidy made Keith Lee look great tonight. Like I said, the Beal jumping around, the spot they did after the match, they did a spot where Isaiah Cassidy jumps out to the outside, Keith Lee catches him. And then Mark Quinn does a flip over the top rope again. Keith Lee catches him. It was just unbelievable. And then he powerbombs him onto the apron. So Keith Lee is officially All Elite. Keith Lee is the free agent signing that Tony Khan was referencing all week. But he wasn't the Forbidden Door signing because that was Jay White. We've got nearly 30 people watching, so be sure to smash a like on the like button. Only got 8 likes so far, so be sure to smash a like on the like button as well. So yeah, they're the 2 debuts. Again, Keith Lee's going to be in the Face of the Revolution ladder match. That's going to be at AEW Revolution. Whether or not he wins, that I don't know. We'll have to wait as to who else is in the ladder match, of course. I tell you what I was worried about, by the way, because I saw this on social media. Shout out Jeremy Lambert from Fightful. I saw him tweet this, and I thought, I tell you what, if this was WWE, they'd do it. Tony Khan was hyping up a big free agent signing, and now obviously it was Keith Lee. But I thought, who else is a free agent? And I thought, oh my God, Cody Rhodes is technically a free agent. I was horrified. I was thinking, I'm telling you now, if they have Cody Rhodes as this free agent signing, oh my goodness. Could you imagine? It would be horrifying. Luckily, they didn't go down that route, but I was just thinking, imagine they do that. Imagine they do that. So there, that's the big signings that appeared on Dynamite. Like I said, initially I was only going to talk about them. I don't really do post-show reviews because Lord knows, I'm always doing stuff, especially with the current schedule with football and everything. But a couple of things I did want to talk about because the show really was so great. Actually, let's have a look at some of your comments as well. I'll get your comments up on the screen. Austin says, yo, and appreciate you joining us, Austin. Clint Cobra says, will Jay White and whatever door that's been opened in AEW affect Impact's deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling and Jay White's match of EY or the GOD likely winning the Impact Tag Team titles? No, I don't think so, Clint, to be honest. I think that Impact Wrestling has a good, strong working relationship with New Japan. They, even though that we don't get as much AEW crossover now, there still is a working relationship. They're still on good terms. Jay White will probably beat Eric Young and No Surrender. GOD, I mean, they could win the Impact Tag Team titles, and they still could get involved in this. I think Impact Wrestling would be fine with, the GOD being the Impact Tag Team champions and then representing Impact Wrestling on AEW programming in a feud that has the Elite versus the Undisputed Era versus the Bullet Club, because it's money and it's exposure for Impact. So I really don't think they'd mind, as long as they would have some AEW talent come over, which they probably would. I don't think it would bother them at all. Really, I really don't. Ephesians, apologies if I've mispronounced that one, says, that was the biggest bill I've ever seen. It was huge, wasn't it? I mean, it was massive. Austin Baker says, let's hope Strickland is next. Yes. Reportedly, the former Isaiah Swerve Scott has already been contacted by AEW, so I wouldn't be shocked if he's going to be the next person contacted. So a couple of things I did want to talk about. First of all, the show opened with the MJF segment, the celebration segment after defeating CM Punk in Chicago last week. It was over the top. I tell you what, I'm not kind of used to, actually. I'm not used to Dynamite opening with a promo. I don't know how I feel about that. For the first, I want to say 40 minutes-ish of the show, there was a lot of talking. And I was like, man, this show's quite talking heavy. Nevertheless, the opening segment, again, had the entire Pinnacle in the ring, and MJF came out and he's being carried to the ring, and he was making out with 2 women and all this kind of stuff, and Justin Roberts' ring announcement of it all. It was over the top, it was gratuitous, and I loved it. I thought it was great. When he came out and he was carried to the ring, I thought, oh, that's tremendous. And some of the lines and one-liners they had in there, I thought it was great. So they set something up where CM Punk comes out and says, I want a rematch, MJF. Give me a rematch. MJF, of course, being the heel, says no. CM Punk says, I'm going to come down to the ring, but I'm not an idiot this time. I'm going to bring help with me. Out comes Sting and Darby Allin. They both have baseball bats. They're about to walk down to the ring, and Dax Harwood takes the mic and he says, you know what? No, we want a rematch. Because, of course, they had that 6-man tag, which was Sting and Darby, and CM Punk defeated FTR and MJF in Greensboro. And essentially they said, no, we'll come to a deal. MJF said, look, you find a tag team partner to face FTR, and if you can beat FTR, I'll give you a rematch anytime, any place. But it can't be Sting and Darby Allin. So I thought, you know what? I then thought, okay, because this was the beginning of the show. And after we saw Jay White arrive and then Keith Lee, I thought there is no way they do a third debut. There is no way they do a third debut on the show. Because at one point, at that point, my mind was really racing. I was thinking, I tell you what, if they bring out Samoa Joe as CM Punk's tag team partner, I don't know what will happen to me. I was actually getting concerned. I was like, I don't know what will happen to me. But that wasn't the case. At one point as well, I thought they'd never do Colt Cabana or something like that. They didn't in the end. So that set up the match for later on in the show. Next, we had a match which was Wardlow versus The Blade. Of course, Wardlow defeats him, does his powerbomb symphony. I tell you what, Wardlow, what a star! I mean, he's a star in the making, and he will be a star. They're doing this. They're doing Triple H Batista. They're doing Triple H Batista circa 2005 with Wardlow and MJF. And I know some people will say, oh, it's not the same. Triple H Batista were way bigger stars. Maybe they were, but that's the storyline they're doing. They're doing the storyline of the big muscle, the big heavy, of the guy that talks a lot. Eventually, the muscle will turn. Wardlow's super over with the crowd. Wherever he goes, he is super over. He is super popular. And the fact that they've got this CM Punk versus MJF feud going, but in the background, they've managed to actually get over Wardlow more is actually really impressive, I think. And Wardlow's super over. The Powerbomb Symphony, people go nuts for it. And they're taking their time with it. They're doing teases. And at the moment that Wardlow eventually does turn on MJF, again, he will be made a star like that. It's the Batista Triple H moment. And I think those that are critics of AEW, those that will say, oh, you're making too many outside signings or former WWE stars, all that kind of stuff. Well, they're also making their own stars as well. I think so. And Wardlow will be one of them. And I'm excited to see that. So after that match, you had the Inner Circle mandatory meeting. I'm just kind of over the Inner Circle at this point. I think it's played out. They've done their stuff. And it looks like they're breaking up, which is probably the right call. Again, I don't see what else they can really do. Basically, out came Jericho, Guevara, Hager. They came out alone, no Santana and Ortiz initially. Then out come Santana and Ortiz to separate music. Santana basically continues the thought process of, we've always been fighting your battles and not our battles, etc. Sammy Guevara then says to him, oh, stop arguing. And then he goes, you know what? I've quit the group once and I'm quitting the group again unless you can get your stuff in order. And he leaves. And I was thinking there, and I was like, well, if you've quit twice, I probably wouldn't have you back, Sammy, to be honest with you, if you're a quitter several times. Nevertheless, we're getting a match next week. It's Santana and Ortiz versus Jericho and Hager. And apparently they're going to settle their differences. Like I said, I'm just kind of over it. I thought the promos was fine. I really enjoyed the promo by Santana. I think he's great on the mic, but I'm just kind of over the Inner Circle. I think they need to move on to different things. They've been going for over 2 years at this point, and it's just time to move on. Jericho needs to evolve. Jericho needs to do different things. Jericho's the king at evolving and doing different stuff. I think at this point he needs to do something different. I think Santana and Ortiz legitimately do need to be involved in the tag team title picture way more. So I thought that was the right call. I hope it is leading to the split. I don't know if that's going to happen. So then we had the Keith Lee match, as we mentioned, so we won't talk about that, but Keith Lee has qualified for the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Then we had the CM Punk tag team match, and CM Punk's tag team partner was none other than Jon Moxley, and CM Punk and Jon Moxley defeated FTR. Now, I must say, it was outstanding. I mean, you know what, I was going to say match of the show, but the Texas Deathmatch main event was really, really good. And I think they were different kinds of matches, in fairness. In terms of a tag team match, I mean, they worked it. I mean, they absolutely worked it. And I think credit to FTR, Moxley, and Punk, because it was a great tag match. I mean, I could go over all the spots. I could talk about Moxley going through the timekeeper's table. I could talk about CM Punk and Jon Moxley hitting the Doomsday device on FTR. I could talk about CM Punk hitting Tully Blanchard with a GTS, even though Tully sandbagged him initially, and Punk couldn't get tiny Tully Blanchard up on his shoulders. Eventually he did. Eventually it got to the finish whereby Mox had the choke on, well, that wasn't the finish. It was hitting the GTS. That was it. It was hitting the GTS, and CM Punk got the victory. But it was tremendous. It really was tremendous. Yeah, that was it. CM Punk hits the GTS on Cash Wheeler. Moxley hits the Paradigm Shift on Dax Harwood, and CM Punk wins, which of course means he gets his rematch. So he's going to be facing MJF probably at Revolution. They haven't said that, but that was awesome. I mean, you will struggle to find a better tag team match this week. It was that good. Just 4 guys in there, one great tag team in FTR. I was surprised we didn't see Bryan Danielson. I thought we were going to see something, and they did play it up on commentary. Tony Schiavone did a good job of playing it up on commentary, of saying, wow, it's interesting that Jon Moxley didn't give Bryan Danielson an answer, but the next week he's more than happy to tag team with CM Punk. Why would he do that? That's very interesting. But But I really enjoyed it. I really, even though the main event was insane and crazy, I would probably say that was probably match of the night. I just thought that was a heck of a tag team match. That's how to do a proper television tag team match. If this was on pay-per-view, you'd have said it's fun, but in terms of just a good television tag team match, enjoyable, great spots. FTR don't look weak at all. It's one of my pet peeves, to be honest, when established tag teams lose to two singles people that were put together, but they worked it. They absolutely worked it. It had everything, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And to be honest, people can criticize CM Punk since he's come back. Oh, he's not what he was, this, that, and the other. It's one of the better matches I think he's had, to be honest with you, and that's coming after last week's match, which was great as well. So I really enjoyed that tag team match. Next up, we had that TBS title match, which, like I said, it was okay. AQA shooting star press I thought was great. I thought she had some good spots that made her look great. The finish was just botched. So she did the shooting star press AQA, and Jade Cargill kicks out. So she goes up for another one, and I guess the spot they were trying to say is that she sort of hesitated or something because she just kind of jumped down, and Jade Cargill sort of got her back, and then after that the timing was just off, and like I said, they switched to the other corner on the ring, and you can easily hear the ref basically saying, push, crossbody, catch, go to finish, and that's basically what they did. So Jade Cargill, look, obviously Jade Cargill's money. She's got an unbelievable look. Her matches are getting better, but she's still green, and I think she's always going to be green. But I think Tony Khan and everyone in AEW and everyone that watches Jade Cargill would say she's money. It was impressive as well as her finish. Did a tour of the islands, which is one of my favorite moves as well. Jeff Cobb's tour of the islands I thought was great. So it was a bit flat, but it was to be expected. But I thought AQA did a good showing, and that was enjoyable. That was then followed with Serena Deeb's 5-minute rookie challenge, which essentially was a squash. But you know what? I'm not going to complain at all because I enjoyed that we get 2 women's matches and 2 women's segments back to back. We need more of that. If they're going to build up their women's division, which I think they are doing, they need to see more of that. That's my biggest criticism, and it's still my biggest criticism of AEW is the lack of women's matches or the lack of meaningful women's feuds, etc. And I do think they're going steps to resolve that. Then it led to the main event, which of course was the Texas Death Match. Hangman Page defeats Lance Archer to retain the AEW World Championship. In terms of going into this match, it felt like the feud was just a TV feud for Hangman Page, something to do, get a title defense under his belt, etc. After defeating Bryan Danielson, and coming out of the Bryan Danielson feud, it did feel like somewhat of a step down. But this match, I'm going to tell you what, Lance Archer is really good at this style of matches. I know he's got a lot of history of doing them, so he knows exactly what he's doing. But this was tough. This was physical. Hangman Page bleeds again, because that's what he does in title matches. But it was worth it in this one. I mean, they had so much. I mean, initially, like right off the gate, Hangman Page hits the buckshot lariat. But then they did a really smart spot where Dan Lambert comes out and Jake Roberts is out there. How do you stop the guy that has the buckshot lariat? Take the top rope off. It's genius. It's genius. Honestly, it's so logical. Just take the top rope off. And then Hangman Page is looking around going, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to fix that? I'm not sure. So obviously they both got colour, they both got blood. It was an interesting spot where Jake Roberts hit Hangman with a short arm clothesline and was going to go for the DDTs doing that, which always pops me. When he does the short arm clothesline, gives it that. It's just classic pro wrestling, isn't it? But Lance Archer said no, didn't allow him to do it, which I don't know if it's teasing them, splitting up, or just a case of, no, I want to inflict punishment. I probably think that. Hangman Page got colour, and by the way, he was bleeding a lot. And the shots with the weapons, there was a spot where Hangman jumps to the outside and Lance Archer hits him in the face with the trash can. It was brutal. There was spots with the kendo stick. There was a Abdullah the Butcher fork spot whereby Lance Archer literally got the fork, was stabbing him in the head, and then licked the blood off the fork, which was, gross. And there was this one spot with the blackout. Oh my goodness. Lance Archer hit a blackout on Hangman Page from the from the apron, or from inside of the ring, to the steel steps which were on the side outside of the ring. He hit the blackout. Hangman Page bounced off the steps and then bounced into the ring post. It was one of the most brutal things you'd ever seen. It sounded horrible. It was Mick Foley-esque. Some of those Mick Foley bumps, or like some of those Jeff Hardy bumps that you see, that they just look like they hurt, and you know that they hurt. There's nothing false about them. That is pro wrestling at its finest, where you just say, you just look at it, you just go, oh, it was brutal, absolutely brutal. He manages to get up though. This then led to Hangman Page somehow managed to fight back. He had barbed wire wrapped around his wrist, hits barbed wire, sort of discus forearm, rolling forearm, and then even though that there was no top rope to do the buckshot lariat, Hangman Page managed to do a buckshot lariat by, I can't believe this, vaulting Paul Turner, who was the referee, and hit the buckshot lariat from the inside of the ring to the outside through some tables. What a finish, what a spot, what a fun match. I know they're not for everyone. I know some people watch those sort of Texas death matches, hardcore matches, death matches in 2022, and they say, oh, there's no spot for them, or they're too violent, they're too gory. I think maybe that's because we've been sanitized all these years of just watching WWE. I think that's because, mainstream companies don't tend to do them as much anymore, but I think there's a place for them. I think they're fun. I really think they're fun. For me, Mick Foley's one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. Because those kind of stuff, I loved it. It's real, and sometimes it is gratuitously violent. It's car crash television, but it's enjoyable. And some of the spots in this match were brutal. And for a feud that going into it, I didn't really care that much about, I really cared about it when the match was over. And I think that's a credit to both of them. I really do. So credit to both of them. Credit to AEW on what I thought was just, honestly, such a fun show. I think it will easily be the best wrestling show this week. It's up there for one of the best shows of the year, I think, come the end of the year, television shows. I know we're early into 2022, and I think it's up there when it comes to one of the best Dynamites that they've ever done. Certainly top 5. So really enjoyable. As I mentioned, guys, I'm going to go to sleep now because it's like nearly 4 a.m. in the morning over here, but I just had to talk about it. Because it was such a great show. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Peace.